What's up, guys? Welcome into the Gramlich and Lain podcast. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. Our girl KG is coming soon. She's going to be back starting next week. She'll be back on the show with us and cannot wait. We miss her so much and got a little bit of updating to do, in the ACC. Kind of turned on its head right now, but no, I'm joking. She's been watching it. She's thrilled and a little depressed, I guess. And so we're excited to get her back today. Taylor Tannenbaum and I sit down with the one and only Jimbo Fisher. Love this conversation. If you guys haven't seen, first of all, what are you doing watching the ACC Network and watching the ACC Huddle? Come check us out and hang out every Saturday with us. But Jimbo has joined the show, and he's been with us. We've been traveling around. It has been awesome getting to know him, getting to pick his brain. I mean, this guy, obviously you knew he was smart going into this, but he's a genius. I have been really enjoying myself talking with him, talking offense, talking defense, schemes, things of that nature, what he sees, how he sees it, which we get into a little bit today. But this conversation was super fun. Wanted to do something a little bit different, this week, a little lighter week in the ACC. So we're just going to do story time with Coach and go through kind of his career, certain parts. And y'all know he loves to talk. So we could have done a 3-hour show. And maybe we will. A round table, because there's some stories in here you probably haven't heard anywhere else. He was kind of saying, I'm like, whoa, is this kind of public, for consumption here? Or what's the deal? But really fun stuff, some really cool things. And he's been an absolute joy to work with. So we're gonna get a message from our friends over at Ingles, and then we're diving in with Coach Jimbo Fisher.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have Energy Smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Coach Jimbo Fisher, baby. Great to see you. I was just teasing you. That background, this backdrop is unbelievable. I'm just caught myself kind of staring around and looking at all the goodies, all the memories. Who put that together? Your wife put that together, or did you do that?
This is the old time. I actually hadn't lived in this. This is my old Florida State house that was put together back 20 years ago, and it hadn't changed.
So it looks good. It looks good. It's rolling.
That was old. It's my old den where I used to sit and watch film when I was coaching at Florida State, and got my big screen up here and my computer here and all that. And that's why I used to sit here at night and just watch film and do stuff all the time.
It's timeless. It's timeless. That's what happens when you do classic things and you do classic things. You don't ever have to adjust it. It stands the test of time, and it looks really good. Well, we're excited to jump into this with you today. I kind of want to just do, a little bit of storytelling, kind of go through your career with some fun things. And then at the end, maybe talk some ACC ball, because it's been really fun. I got to say, having you up on the desk and what you bring to our group. I mean, just a lot of knowledge, man. So it's been a real pleasure and a real treat. Let's start at the very beginning. How the heck did you get into this coaching thing? Like, when did you know? And, how'd you get going coaching?
It was weird. I was a ball nut. I mean, ball was everything to me in my life. And I played all three sports: football, basketball, baseball, the whole thing. And I always knew I wanted to play ball as long as I could and coach. And it was interesting because I got lucky that I got hooked up with the Bowdens at an early age. See, Terry and Jeff and those were my coaches, and Bobby was at Florida State at the time. And Terry's first jobs ever. I didn't go with him. I transferred back to play for him at two places, Salem College, and then he goes to Sanford, and I followed him there. But I was around them, and they treated me so well. We had great teams. We went to national playoff games all the time. Basically, the NAIA, which was at that time Division II, was all Carson Newman, all that group, and all of us. We had really good teams because we were transfer heaven. We were NIL before NIL in the 80s. The NAIA was back. As crazy as this sounds, it was better than NCAA, because when you got in the NCAA, once your clock started, you had 5 years to play for. The NAIA is not like that. You have 10 semesters to play. They can go for 2 years, take a break, come back in 2 years. You know what I'm saying? It was just 10 semesters. Well, we were a small school and when I transferred back into Salem, there were 13 of us that came in, myself, and then 12 other guys, like 3 from Florida State, 2 from Michigan, 1 from Missouri. We were, like guys that you had, say guys you played with at Clemson that were great players that got in grade trouble or had a miscue. Right. They all came to us. I mean, I'm not talking about played. I'm talking about started. We're great players. We had a bunch of NFL guys on those teams, Canadian guys, NFL teams, and they got drafted. We were a transfer heaven, And because Terry and with his dad, he had connections to all the different people. So hey, we got a guy, he's not really a bad guy, just made a bad mistake. Or, he's in grade trouble or something. They'd work it out and get him back. And we had those guys in. So we had really good teams. I mean, we had really good teams. And then I wanted to play. And then Terry gets the job at Sanford, which ironically is where Bobby coached. See, Bobby grew up in Birmingham, and it was that time Howard College. That was Coach Bowden's first job. And that's where he played. That's where Coach Bowden played. And I give you a quick story on that. People don't know that. He originally went to Alabama out of high school. That was his dream because he was from Birmingham. He went to the famous Woodlawn High School. That's Tony Nathan back in the day. You had Banks and Woodlawn were the two famous schools in Birmingham. I'm talking about years. They even went from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all that. Like they were the first big games in college football history where there'd be 60, 70,000 people to high school game at Legion Field in Birmingham. Well, Coach Bowden was there, and he went to Alabama, and he ended up at Sanford, and they said, how'd he get there? He came back after one semester, and he married Ann, his wife, and you could not be on scholarship and be married at the University of Alabama at that time. He gave up his scholarship to come back and went to Howard College, which eventually became Sanford, which was right across the street from him, got married to Ann and went to school there.
Wow.
I can't even get a text back, Coach. Look at that.
That is a lie. Don't say
Huh?
that.
I mean,
Taylor's
it's
over here
crazy.
lying on the pod.
And he gets married. So so anyway, that's how he got to Howard. So that was Terry's connection to wanting to go back. And it was a good job. They had started football back. And ironically, the funny thing, they were a really good team when Coach Bowden was there in the 70s. Actually won a national championship or I can't remember what it was, Division II. But they dropped football. Something happened. I don't remember the whole deal they dropped. Well, they started it back in 1984. They're playing. You know who played them in their opening game?
Who's
Salem
that?
College.
Wow.
Salem College. They thought it'd be neat to have Bobby's son be on the other sideline when they started football back in 1984. Now, here I was my first game as a freshman. I'm a starting quarterback. We play. We win the game 82-9.
What?
We win it 82-9.
What were the stats? What were your yards looking like?
I only played a quarter and a half, through for like 260 and 3 or 4 touchdowns, and then we were done.
Wow.
Let's go, Coach.
Hey, Jimbo, go sit on the bench. Go warm it up over there.
We had like, but ironic, here's the funny thing. I played my first game. Sanford ended up tying into my career. That's why I'm saying this. I played, after I transferred back to play football, it was the first game I ever played in college, played against them. Well, ironically, then going into my senior year, and I had a great career. I was very successful. We won. I had a lot of individual accolades, All-American, Player of the Year in the conference, all that good stuff. And Terry leaves to go there, and he gets me to transfer with him. And I go play my last year at Sanford.
Wow.
It was ironic, but it was such a beautiful place. And I knew that because Terry at the time where he was going, he always said, you're going to play as long as you can, and then I want you on my staff. He told me that. I want you to coach because we had a relationship. It was ironic. When we used to go to games, Coach Bowden, old Coach Bowden, talking about Bobby, he never rode the team bus. He always rode the state trooper who led the cars, and he rode in the back seat all the time. Well, Terry did too. That was because Terry did everything like his dad. Well, I wasn't allowed to ride the team bus because we had all those transfers. I had to ride in the police car with Terry. So we would sit there and go over game plans.
Right.
I mean, I knew what the right guard did, the left guard, I mean, I knew what everybody did because that's back in the old days. You sent plays in. If they were screwed up, I had to fix them. He thought we became so tight and we thought alike. He started to call a play and I'd wave him off. I got it. I know. I've heard it. I heard it 7,992 times.
Right.
And here's the other thing. Over at James Taylor. James Taylor was his favorite deal. So we listened to James Taylor the whole time riding in the car. It's all we ever did. I got so James Taylored out I couldn't stand it. But it was like a coach, so I knew it like that. And then in practice, I mean, there'd be drills. He'd be working with the O-line because you had Jimbo handle the receivers, or even when I was playing. And so I went in to coach. I was fortunate to be around them to learn how to do it the right way.
Man, wow.
And they kind of adopted me like a son, and kind of, I mean, they took care of me. And then I was fortunate when I got done, and got drafted, got claimed into Canada, played some arena ball, all that good stuff. I got done. I came back and they said, coach. So I started coaching as I was a GA, but I coached quarterbacks. I had the whole quarterbacks to my room myself. Terry was a line guy. Jeff was a receiver guy. So I got fortunate. And then every time we would learn to coach, I mean, the Bowden Academies, which the Manning Academies are modeled after today.
Right.
Like how to throw the ball. I was a senior counselor. Because they were all receiver guys. I did it my senior year in college, believe it or not. And ironic, this is an ironic story. I'm sitting on a plane coming back from our last game. We just did ACC Network last week. Okay. I'm on the plane going back to Tallahassee, or excuse me, to Atlanta. from where we flew into. There's a guy sits down beside me, and there was a huge All-American baseball game going on up there, and all these scouts come in and sit down. Well, they all knew me because I was a baseball. The guy sits down beside me. He said, Jimbo, you're not going to believe this. He said, but you were my counselor at the first Bowden Academy.
What?
Well, I was flying from South Florida to Atlanta. They were all down in South Florida. We was flying to Atlanta. I remember coming from Miami. He said,
Wait.
you were the senior counselor at the Cocoa Beach Expo. I was a junior. He went to Santa Lucia's High School right there in West Palm. He was into Santa Lucia's. And he said, you got, because his dad was a pro baseball guy, and he was a baseball guy and a football guy. And he said, Jimbo, you're one of the reasons I stuck with football. He said, right before I left the camp, you ran over to me and saw me leaving. You grabbed me on the shoulder, and I was a senior in college. He said, you just said, hey, son, how was he? I was a tall, 6'1", 170-pound skinny kid. He said, but you stick with this because you got arm talent. You can throw that football. You can play this game.
Wow.
He said, from that day on, I took off, and then he got signed at La Tech. He played at La Tech. And La Tech at that time, he went to La Tech and became the starting quarterback. And they had great, Willie Rofe was his left tackle, and all those. I mean, they had great teams. That was a team, believe it or not. You don't remember this. In 1992, Alabama won the national championship. The closest game they had all year was to La Tech. La Tech had them beat in a game and almost won it. And that guy played in it, and he played in the bowl game. They'd beaten, almost beat all.
Wow.
But we sat there, and now he's a baseball scout in pro baseball.
That's incredible.
But we were sitting there, and it was funny. We went back to those memories, and he said, he said, you were the. I said, yeah. I said, you were a senior in high. He said, but you changed. He said, you were a senior. You just grabbed it, and he said, what he said. I just wanted to tell you that because he said, you don't know as coaches sometimes how you affect people's lives in the business we're in. You know what I mean? He said, you just grabbed me by the shoulder before I left, and I was there 3 days with you, and you said, don't give up on it. You're a really talented young guy. And I said, those people say, why you coach? That's why you coach. But but the Bowdens give me that opportunity. Think about it, as a senior in high school. They had their first with their family name on it. Jimbo, you got quarterbacks.
Don't
you know
mess
what I mean?
it up.
I was blessed. You know what I mean? And then I would, like, when we would be around Bob, we'd sit at night at those academies. We moved it around after that to Sanford and then Auburn. We'd sit at night, and Bobby sat there, and everybody was around, all the high school coaches. And me and Bobby always sat beside each other because we had one bad habit: we both chewed tobacco. So I had to sit with him, or he had sit with me. One of us had to have tobacco. We'd sit there and put your feet up by the pool at the places, and he would tell stories. I just listened to him coach. Listen to him tell stories, how he handled, say, so what'd you do with that old player back then? He'd be like some of his old high school buddies too. And,
Right.
know inner stories of players and how he handled things, how he coached things, the way he thought. It was just, you didn't realize the amount of information you were absorbing at a young age at such a fortunate time in your life. You know what I mean? And he gave me the best advice then too, because I was coaching with Terry at Sanford. And your dream is, hey, coach, I want to go coach at Florida State. I want to go coach at Clemson. I want to go coach at, he said, I said, what can I do to get up there? He said, I'm going to give you the best advice I ever got. I said, what? He said, I never got a job I applied for. He said, every job came to me.
Yeah.
He said, you know how? He said, do a real good job at the one you got.
Right.
Somebody will notice. And he said, you may not, you may get frustrated with it. Just keep doing a good job. You'll get a job. He said, every job I applied for, I never got. Every job I wanted, and every job I got, I never applied for.
Right.
So
That's
right.
a fascinating little
It's
tidbit.
because, you see coaches wanting to jump. Well, I jump to here. They just want to keep taking different jobs from, and he said, never take a job for money.
Right.
He said, make sure you can win. You can have things going for it. He said, make sure a place has got more going for it than just you.
Right.
Make sure it's got some help and resources. And I got young age, and so we would go, Terry'd say, hey, we're going to go watch Florida plate practice in spring this week. Come on. I'd go with him. I didn't stay in a hotel. I stayed in Bobby's house.
Right.
In a bedroom. I slept in the bedroom. We go to bowl. Then I became a coordinator. Jeff went on to Southern Miss, and I became a coordinator at 24, 25.
Wow.
And we had really good team, went to national playoffs and quarterfinals and all that stuff. We were emergent Sanford up. And so that week, matter of fact, it was 1990 when it was. And Florida State and Penn State were playing in the Blockbuster Bowl in Fort Lauderdale, the very first initial one. Both of them were top 10. So they took me there. I sat in every staff meeting.
Wow.
And I sat in the back and just Bob. That's when Bobby was still calling plays and running the offense. Mark Rick was a quarterback coach. You know what I mean? He was there, and I just sat in the back and just and watched him, not just what he called, but how he organized,
Right.
how he structured, how he allotment of time for this, and how he thought. You know what I mean? Watch film with him and just sit back and listen to him comment. And then I sat in the box a couple times, and I put a headset on. I couldn't talk and just listen to him call the game. He had a unique ability to call the game. So I was exposed to things, and like he'd want to get a play, and he'd know where to get it. He may call it 2 or 3 times in a row because they weren't in the right defense that time. So good, let's call it again.
Try it again.
I mean, saying you can't call it again. He called it 2 times in a row and get it and bust
I
it.
love
And
that.
he was one renowned as one of the great play callers in his young days. He was really good. You know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
listen how his thought process went. So I was exposed to all that. And then we have a lot of success at Sanford, go to the national semis and the quarters. Then Terry gets, and we had the best team coming back. We had 23 starters coming back. But then Terry gets the Auburn job. So I get to go there at 26 or 20, I was 26, 27 years old, 26. We get the quarterback job, and I basically called the plays at Auburn. My quarterback was Sam White was 22. I was 26. It was fun.
Not
And
bad.
the backup on that team, who ended up being a starter later, was Pat Nix, Bo Nix's daddy.
Yep.
But we had great teams, and Coach Dye, they'd gotten on probation. We come in, we actually won 20 in a row. We never lost for almost 2 years. I had great team. Should have won the 93 national championship. Could have won
Right.
the AP poll and didn't. But I was
Well,
there
I
for
think
6
Auburn
years.
has won it since, Taylor. I think they've claimed it. I think
They've
they've
claimed
won
it.
Yeah, they have. I mean,
Congratulations, Coach.
we were the only undefeated team in the country that year.
Right.
Oh,
Right. Where's
was
the ring? Are
ironic.
they putting it in the mail or what? I mean, can we
It
get
was
that?
ironic that Florida State won its first national championship in '93. So we would sit there and argue. We were better. They were better. But it was ironic that Bobby won it and Terry goes undefeated first. And Bobby actually won national coach of the. I mean, Terry won national coach of the year over Bobby.
It's amazing.
It was crazy. I mean, so you're sitting there and Tommy's on the staff. So I was just around him all the time. Go ahead, Taylor. You going to say something?
Yeah, no, because you did Auburn, you did Cincinnati, you did LSU. I want to know the story behind like you finding out or the transition of power when it was very clear that Coach Bobby Bowden was going to call it a career and you were being handed the reins. Like what that conversation was like when you first heard that and the
Yeah.
emotion you felt.
It was crazy. Going into it, everybody assumed that when I went to Florida State, that was already that's not that's a lie.
Wow.
That was not a deal when I left LSU to go there because I was at LSU and we had Coach Saban was the head coach and we had tremendous success. He goes to Miami. I don't want to go to pro ball. I stay with Les. And then I know it's time to, I've been under Les, had great, and Les was I learned a lot from Les, learned a lot from Nick. But I just wanted to do some things different. At that time, I had 7 job opportunities.
Wow.
Could have went to pro football. The Steelers could have went, had a head coach. I'll tell you a funny story. This one real quick. A funny story. UAB calls, they're cranking up football and they're doing really good. They want me to be the head coach. And the guy runs Shoal Creek, the famous golf club in Birmingham, and Jimbo Lee, who owned Buffalo Rock. UAB couldn't pay me enough, but those two got together and said, we don't matter. We'll make up the salary and whatever the program needs, and we'll set this up. We want UAB to be good. So I'm going to fly up and do an interview for that job. And at that time, Nick had just came back to Alabama from the Dolphins.
Wow.
That
So
was the
this
same
is
year,
08? This is 08?
07.
07?
After the 06 year, going into 07. So Nick wants me to be the OC. Had a couple other OCs, had a couple of head coaches. UAB, it's like 6 or 7 jobs. It's like I say, when you don't have a job offer, you can't get one, and when you don't want one,
Right.
you get 20 of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the way it always goes in life.
So hold
So
on. Were you
I said,
transitioning at this point? You were still at LSU and Nick's
I was
offering
LSU
you
as the
and-
OC, and we had won the
Okay.
national championship in 03, 05, 07. I mean, we were low. We were rolling.
Right.
I mean, we were
Right.
the best team in the country. Of us
Right.
and USC were probably situations the 2 best teams. We were loaded, but I knew I just needed to move, and it was time to go. And so I said, this UAB thing, and I knew Jimbo Lee, who was a great guy, run Buffalo Rock, was the largest privately owned distributorship of Coca-Cola. He had Pepsi and all that Coca-Cola, Pepsi
Wow.
in the world, in the United States. So they were going to fund it, and they were friends of mine, and the owner of Shoal Creek, and so help UAB get going. So I go on a visit. They set it up. I call and I said, nope, we're not taking it. So what do you mean? See, UAB is under Alabama's board of directors.
Mm. And Saban shut it down?
Bear Bryant Jr., Paul Jr. is the head of the board. He says no. Period. No. You ain't interviewing him. You ain't coach. You ain't doing nothing. They want me to go to Alabama as the OC. Stopped it. Would not let me even. They told UAB, you're not even interviewing the guy.
Wow. Does
think
anybody
about
know
that.
that? Is that breaking news?
Yeah, I mean, how about that? They stopped
Wow.
it. Period. End of the conversation.
Wow. That
That's
is
back in
crazy.
07. Huh?
Crazy. And so okay, so did that
How
tick you off
different
and
life
you
would have been. That's
I know,
crazy.
I know. So did that tick you off and you told Saban to kick it
Well,
or
that
what?
wasn't but I'd been with Nick, and I knew I had that. I wanted one. See, I've been around Bobby, but I'd never coached with him.
Mhm.
Right.
And he was at the end of his career, and I loved him. And I wanted to help Florida State get back. Florida State, I mean, growing up being around him, I love Florida State.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wanted to go back and help them get on top. It was a great opportunity. So everybody assumed they give me the head coaching job, the coach and wait, and gets back to your story, Taylor. But it wasn't the truth.
Mm.
Right.
And it was, you know what was funny? It was $300,000 less than any offer I ever had.
No
Wow.
way.
I
Wow.
It was $300,000 less than any other offer I had to coach.
Wow.
And some of them said, just tell me what you want, I'll give it to you.
Dang. So
I'm
you
not
just
being
felt
arrogant, but
that
that was a fact.
connection with Bobby and the conviction to go there that it was just
Well, and there were some things I wanted to get around him on some things because Bobby had a unique ability to handle people and
Mhm.
recruit and do things. He can make you feel like if you're around him 5 minutes, it's like you knew him for 20 years.
Right.
There was a genuineness to him, and he always is that way. And I loved him. And I said, there's just a couple things I'd like to get on staff before I become a head coach. I was still
Wow.
young, I just want to get them under my belt. I mean, I've seen everything else, and I love them. I had nothing against Nick or going to Alabama or any of that stuff. I just in my mind, you ever have something in the back of your mind or your heart say, you know what? I know
Mhm.
this is more money. This could be something. Just trust. I
Yeah.
always said trust your instincts and your gut sometimes.
Right. Right.
So I go back to Florida State, and to make a long story short, so we start having it. Well, I get a couple offers while we're there when I'm the OC, and uh, matter of fact, I tell you an ironic thing. It's why we ended up getting an indoor early in my career. I threw a fit. We go. Our first game was against Clemson.
Yeah.
Our first game was against Clemson on a Monday night. We opened up the and Tommy's the head coach at Clemson. Okay. It rains in Florida. We have no indoor, and our practice fields had no drainage. And Coach Bowden did this his whole career. People have no idea how good he was with so little. Okay. Probably the best job in the history of college football, even over Snyder because he won championships. Florida State didn't have a lot.
Mhm.
We didn't practice for 7 days. We could not go outside for 7 days before the opening game of the year.
Wow.
And the first half, we're losing 18-0. We ended up getting beat like 30-24. So they hadn't been outside it. They hadn't been outside to throw, catch. It rained in one of them where everything set in. And in the days it just half rained, the fields were still flooded.
Yeah,
We had
flooded.
nowhere to practice. And it was you couldn't believe it. I said, we don't have an indoor with the Florida. I said, my Lord, it was mind
Hey,
boggling.
hey, Jimbo. So what did Coach about, buddy? We'll just figure it out, buddy.
Hey, he would just go and Coach, I love you, man, but we got to have more. I'm mad. you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It was just so. Anyway, we go a couple years, and some people start uh, offering me jobs, and I don't want to go. And some of them have gotten pretty enticing
Right.
for head job, but I wanted to stay one more, and then all of a sudden, like you said, Monk Bonasort and TK Weatherall was the president. Said this is what we're going. They talked to Bobby, and they said this is what we're going. I was there, I believe. I want to say a year and a half, but it should have been in I'm not specific on a day. It was probably the middle after '08 or in the middle of '08. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
come down and
Mhm.
said after about I was there about a year and a half and said, "Hey, we would like to do this deal." And we put a timeline on it, like after 4 years, or I think it was like 3 or 4 years. If it wasn't in its null and void, I could leave and go somewhere. You know what I mean? We had to put a couple because Coach Bell wanted to go a couple more years. I said, I'm fine with that.
Right.
Whatever he wants to do. And it was like surreal. I mean, I had to pinch myself. Now here's ironic. The same time I get that, if you remember, where was he going? Oh, that's when Rich Rod got mad and left West Virginia.
So you want to go home?
Oh.
No, they called me.
They wanted you to come back home. Excuse me.
Senator Joe Manchin, who was the governor at the time,
Wow.
which I knew. See, he was Nick's best friend growing up.
Right.
Joe was Nick's best friend, and that which is close to me. I get a phone call. I mean, it's the same week. He calls me up. Like I say, when you don't have a job, it's fine. When you get one, you call
Unreal.
up, and he says, "Jimbo, you want to come back to West Virginia?" I
Mm.
said, "Huh?" He said, "That's when Rich got mad and went to Michigan
Wow.
after they had
Wow.
lost to Pitt
Sure.
on that game." He said, "Would you come back?" And I said, wow. I mean, kind of, just, I mean, Jimbo, it's
It's so
Joe.
out of left
Hey,
field.
Joe,
Yeah,
buddy,
you had
blah,
no
blah,
clue.
blah. And I'd met him a bunch of times.
Sure.
He said, hey, Scott, he said, we want you to be the head coach. You want the job? I said, yeah, I'm very interested. He said, well, I said, yes. And so we worked out a pay schedule a little bit.
Mm.
Kind of, I said, it's got to be in this range, to you go. And because I'm just fixing to be the head. I mean, there's maybe the head coach I'm waiting here. I can wait. And I'll tell you, if you get me into some funny, you're bringing back memories now. It's fun. It's ironic, but it was surreal because Florida State's where I'd love to be. But then all of a sudden, you're homeschooled, which is 30 miles from my home.
Yeah.
And at that time, my mom, man, my mom's 88 right now, but that's 20. I mean, she's in her late 70s. As for her to be around my her grandkids, the whole thing, and they're young. So I'm sitting there, and so we get it agreed. And when the AD called back, he wasn't in the same range. I said, wait a minute, it was kind of going back. So it was crazy. So anyway, they still make the offer to get it right. And my mom calls me, and I call my mom, and Florida State, don't call your mom. Your mom's going to tell you to come home. That's my parents weren't like that. My mom sat there. She's the most unbelievable human in the world. She really is. And she's sitting there, and she said, well, let me ask you this. I love you. Of course, I want you to come home. I want you to be 30 miles, see my baby, see all that. She said, that's what you left home here for? To come back? Is that what you want? I said, well, yeah, it's one of the things I would want. I mean, it's a great job. It's a great school. It's a great institution. You know what I'm saying? And then called back and said, my mom said, well, let me ask you this. And you got to wait 2 years or 3 years. If Florida State calls back, is that a better job than going to West Virginia?
Mm.
I said, probably overall, Mom. I love West Virginia, but it's probably, I mean, that is a really, she said, then why are you coming home? So you left out of here 25 years ago at 19 years old. My mom, of all the people, you know what I mean, who wants you back, she said,
Yeah.
that ain't what I raised you to do. If you
Wow.
left for your dream. And she but then at the same time, West Virginia called back, and all of a sudden the money wasn't the same. And this wasn't the same. And they called back with a whole different package. And it was kind of like I looked at it as a sign from God a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it ain't why am I hacking with this? I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
I was torn. I mean, I was torn down the middle because I loved West Virginia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's my home
Yeah.
state and doing that. And so when they made me that deal, then after my great years before LSU and Cincinnati and it was then Coach Bowden did it after a year later. He just did it after the '09 season,
Mhm.
and it was tired and everybody here's the thing, everybody always assumed that I took it forced him out and that we didn't get along. That's as far from the truth as anything.
Mm.
He used to sit and mentor me in his office, and we'd talk about things, and he said, this could be a pitfall for you in the future. Watch these things, all that. And when we got done, he said, see, he always told me this, back setting around the pool in 1980s. He said, when I'm done at coaching in Florida, so wherever I'm at, he said, I'm not going to come around my school for 5 or 10 years. I said, why would you do that, coach? Well, wherever you're at, they'd love it. He said, it's not fair to the new head coach.
Yeah, it's tough.
He said, because they're going to be sitting there every time you do something. And listen, you make mistakes when you're a first time head coach. That's just part of the game.
Yeah.
We all did. He said, they're going to look at me and say, Bobby, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do? This is Bob. And he said, you never get the program. He said it happened to him somewhere. I don't know where. I don't remember. He said it happened. And he said, he'll never forget. And he saw it happen. He said, he'll never do it.
Wow.
So when I did that, he said, you remember what happened, buddy? I said, I'm not coming back up here. But you pick the phone up. We would talk every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We talked all the time.
That's
And when
awesome.
I left to go to Texas A&M, he actually got the Houston paper to follow me and still called me, and we still talk all the time. Believe that or not, because he said, you're like a son to me. So, you know what I mean? He said, you're like
That's
part of
cool.
the family. And he did it. But he that whole thing of us being not a good situation was exactly life. I had a problem. I just picked the phone up.
Well, people,
Hey, buddy, what you
they
got?
want to say what they want to say.
And sometimes he'd say, I don't have an answer. You know what to do. Trust your gut. Or he'd
You'll
get you
figure it
the-
out.
I said, no, I need a little opinion. But
Yeah.
you had a mentor there. On all the brothers, they were all good to me. But it was a surreal moment. To coach a place that I remember, because I remember Florida State, when I fell in love with Florida State, it was 1979 and 80.
Mm.
They went to when Florida State was nothing. They went to back-to-back Orange Bowls and played Oklahoma. They were 10-1 one year and 11-0. Oklahoma beat them in 1 year 24-7. And the next year, Tom beat them at the end 18-17 with J.C. Watt. They scored at the end and hit a 2-point conversion to beat them 18-17. But Florida State were on the map. And then it started, they started really going. Then I ended up playing for Terry. It was kind of ironic. And now here's the irony. So I become the head coach in 2010. I told you I played my first game against Samford and college football.
Yeah.
Played my last game for him. As an assistant, when I became the assistant and as quarterback coach, I coached my first game as assistant for him. When I became the head coach in 2010, you know who we opened up with? Samford. I played my first game.
See,
That's amazing.
You don't write those things. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I say God has a plan for you and he lays it out and it's all in place.
Yeah.
And I played against him. It was complete irony. And at that time, there were 2 All-American quarterbacks in the history of Samford University. You know who they were?
Who's that?
Bobby Bowden and me. I made All-American my year there. I mean,
Amazing.
I'm not bragging because I was All-American, but my
No,
mother,
it is what it is. Yeah.
you know who pointed that out to me, believe it or not, was my mother. I didn't
Really?
even, you're just going. My mom said, "Do you realize all that?" I went, "Wait a minute." And she was going, and I went, "Oh, Mom, that's all." Then she started putting it all together and something. Wait a minute, something.
Yeah.
My mom was in church all the time now. She said, God had a plan for you. And I said, well, I'm glad you and God did, because
That's
sometimes my plans weren't always real smart.
Hey, he
You know
looks at
what I
our
mean?
plans and he starts
But
laughing.
it
He
was, I
starts
mean, that
laughing.
was how I got into. I mean, that was, and listen, being around Nick. I mean, being around Rick Mentor. It's funny. You know who Jesse Mentor is? The defensive coordinator of the Chargers right now.
Yeah.
That was at Michigan when they won the national championship, and they're doing such a good job of the Chargers. His daddy was my head coach at Cincinnati. He was a little kid running around the office. Believe it or not, his son, who's one of the best coordinators in football now,
Yeah.
he was a Mike. Matter of fact, Tomlin, me and Mike and all that. We had a heck of a staff. Larry
Mm.
Zerline, Joe Daniels, Hudson, Mike Tomlin, myself. I mean, Keith Willis, who played in the. I mean, we had a heck of a staff there.
Yeah.
And then after 1 year, I got the job at. Then Nick hired me at LSU, and we went there.
Right.
Had a great run there, and I got to see how Nick did. I saw Nick do things, and Bobby, two guys that were as successful as anybody,
Sure.
and they're polar opposites.
Right.
So
Right.
it showed me there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat.
Do it.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And try to, and when I always tried to do myself, I tried to be whatever. There was some I took from everybody, from
Mhm.
Mentor, from Terry, even Terry was a little bit different than Bobby.
Yeah.
But you had to be yourself. But I was very fortunate to be around very highly successful people, from not from just a ball standpoint, but from a structural standpoint. I think
Mhm.
that's so important. We get so caught up on coaches on ball. Their structural purpose and organization of a whole program is so vital, from the
Sure.
recruiting to how you practice to the off season to relationship with donors to, I mean, I saw guys do it different ways and be successful. It kind of opened my eyes. Don't be afraid if you see something. There's no one way you have to do it.
Right.
Correct.
You gotta. And so I was fortunate around to be multiple successful people at an early age that allowed me to kind of think my own way.
Rollback just dropped their licensed game day collection. Polos, hoodies, Q-zips, custom designed for your school. On game days, we wear Rollback, period.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what's so special, and it's interesting. You talk about the luck and the grace and all this opportunity to be around it at such a young age, but also as you're getting older. I mean, you're around monsters, and obviously become one yourself in regards to these great head coaches. When it was your turn and you kind of got the reins, what was kind of your order? Do you have like a top three of, okay, I'm the head coach now, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and I've got to do this, and then we'll figure the rest out.
I never, I mean, I said I knew I wanted to establish myself. I mean, first of all, you have to be able to establish yourself with the organization and the school to align yourself about how you see the program being run. Because listen, you can do all you want as a coach. Your administration is not tied in. You know what I mean? And then, now one thing I did have, which was tough, Coach Biden had been there for 36 years, I think 36, 37, however many years it was. And the first thing you get, well, Coach Biden didn't do it that way.
Of
Not
course.
from him, but from all the people who
Right.
work there.
Right. Right.
Well, it's a different day and time. We're doing a little bit different. Finally, a couple of them, I said, something, I was joking. I said, the next guy that tells me that, I'm going to throw you out a third-story window. I mean? Times have changed. You know what I mean? Coach Biden, when he got older, kind of, but how you work, you know what I mean? But I had to get the administration. I had a guy named Monk Bonassor. Our AD was a go-between assistant AD. Let me tell you something. Key to, I mean, saw the earth, got things done for me as far as working with the administration, who to talk to, the right guy to talk to, this, that, and the other, and how to approach the president and different things, and really helped me in an unbelievable amount. And then he passed away after I was at Florida State. Unfortunately, see, he was a great player there. Matter of fact, he broke Lee Corso's record for interceptions.
Yeah.
It wasn't Dion that broke Lee Corso's record. It was Monk
Wow.
Bonassor.
Wow.
And then Dion didn't break his. Buckley broke it. See, Buckley has the all-time record. Buckley, and then Monk, and then Monk was a safety from Pittsburgh, but he was a walk-on, believe it or not, made
Yeah.
All-American. He was on those 79, 80 teams, believe it or
Wow.
not,
Wow.
on there. And but he knew, and he helped me out tremendously. Then I said, all right, we got to establish recruiting in the state. We got to get to the coaches. And then, of course, my players, which are not, I said, I always say this with players. I want him to be able to say, I may not have agreed with him, but I could trust him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like it all. Listen, you ain't going to, because I ain't there to be your friend.
Right.
I was there to coach you. I was there to mold you to what you can be, not what you are. So you're gonna have to learn to be uncomfortable. There's gonna be times I'm gonna coach you hard, but I'm also gonna walk off the field. I'm gonna put my arm around you. I'm gonna love you and tell you why I did it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm always gonna be straightforward with you. I always wanted to have the ability. When they walked in there, they knew they were gonna get the truth. Might not hear what they want to hear, but they were going to get the truth
No
somehow,
doubt.
some way. And off the field, I'll do whatever I got to do. I'm gonna back you. You're like your parent away. You know, I wanted that
Mhm.
relationship. I wanted that as a player, and I wanted that as a coach. Those are kind of the three things, and how we went into it to establish myself, and was very fortunate. You know, we had a
Yeah.
good run, got a good run going early.
For you, Coach, now, this year you joined us on the ACC huddle.
Mhm.
So you're getting
By the way,
into
it's been awesome. I mean,
Come
y'all made it.
on.
I mean, y'all know softballs. I used to play a lot of softball. Y'all throwing it down the middle about waist high. It feels easy.
and you've hit every single one out of the park. And I know there's a lot of similarities in the business to being a coach and also being on the media side of things. There's just whatever. You're still within the world in a sense. Um, but aside from it being softballs, what have you felt about being on this side of things? You do radio, you do some podcasting stuff. What's life been like on this side, knowing that you've spent your entire life previously with the microphone in your face, being asked
Well,
questions?
I'm right every Saturday now. They can't argue with me.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, I said there's two jobs in the country. Whoever's the president and whoever's the football coach on Saturday, you're the dumbest people in America. Everybody can do your job better than you can. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
True.
But I said my approach to this that I love being around ball. And what I love is the prep for the weekend. I'm sitting there watching film. I feel like I'm getting ready for a game. I'm
Yeah.
watching that team, and except I get to watch more teams. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is people don't realize how hard y'all work to prepare. I think that's the thing that's misconstrued too. Like if people understood how many hours a coach put in for a game plan, you wonder why they're so grumpy when the kids don't do it right. You know what I mean? And
Right.
once old players get to go into coaching, they realize that. But
Yeah.
it's the same way with y'all. I mean, the amount of preparation, and I hope everybody's doing. I know y'all are. Our group does for sure. But I hope the people across the world, the amount of preparation that goes into it. But what I wanted to do too is I appreciate it, but tell the story a little bit through a coach and try to bring to you the perspective. Sometimes the thing in media that I got to be you got to have clicks, you got to have people watching you. But at the same time, you don't want to just be a clickbait guy where you're trying to say outrageous, stupid thing. You want
Exactly.
again go back to being truthful. It can be
Mhm.
an opinion. You can have an opinion on things, but also give their opinion why they may do it. But I say try to talk about the truth and where things are, and don't try to just be a clickbait guy or cause controversy. Yeah, that guy's getting fired. This guy's getting fired. I mean,
Right.
they should fire him. They should do that. I mean, we all know when that's inevitable. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
that's kind of how I'm trying to fit in and trying to, as I'm feel my way as I go to make sure I'm doing a good enough job of being self-analytical to the teams and everything that's going on, along with still being truthful and honest for them and trying to give them the benefit of the doubt in the right situations, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Your perspective has been so valuable. Like I've learned so much just because you see things from such a different vantage point.
Yeah, everybody does. Like I say this, being a player, I wish a player could, one of the best things happened to me at the end of my career, you could hire your players for camp.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Well, they're all in
Mhm.
camp and we're coaching. And listen, I get on our guys in camp. I make our camp. Them kids are paying money. I want you guys to coach them, make them better. And I'm on. The guy ain't doing it right. Get him. Well, coach, I told him 3 times. I said, now you know it's like coaching you. Now get it right. Now you understand why I'm so upset. You're upset at him now. But my point was, a player really doesn't understand sometimes how much work a coach does. They say, well, you're just telling us how to do this. It's easy. Well, and all of a sudden you get frustrated when you tell a guy 4 times to do something and he doesn't do it. You know what I'm saying? And it's, the perspective of being a player is not a coach, and a coach to a player. I told him I've played. I understand. I know it's different times, but just trying to see. My dad always told me this. It's a true story. I was sitting. I was a little kid, and we called them like homeless people. We called them hobos back in the day. They rode the trains. You know what I mean? In town, I was uptown one day, and I was about 6 years old. And my dad we stopped on the street, and that's back in our little town when on those Saturdays it was always booming. And guy was sitting there kind of, looking for money and was kind of poor. And I was kind of snipping down at him, kind of not saying anything, but snickering, laughing. And man, he hit me right in the back of the head. Said, "What the heck you laughing?" I said, well, he looks funny. I said, Dad, wait. I mean, no, start crying. What the heck you laughing at, boy? He knew what I was laughing. I said, he looks funny. He said, well, maybe you look funny to him.
Mhm.
I mean, he always said, you don't ever know somebody till you look through their eyes, son.
That's right.
So quit being judgmental and quit being
Love
that
that.
way. You know what I'm saying? And it was a
Yeah.
very at first, well, one, it was I remember because he about knocked my head off. That's back now, child abuse now. You know, that's child abuse, but I mean, right in the middle of downtown. I mean, when I say smack, you know, he was a
He got you.
he was a bigger than you. I mean, he knocked the heck out of
Golly.
you. He was a big guy
Bless your
now. I
heart. I'm
mean,
glad
really
you
big
made it.
guy.
I'm glad you made it.
And that was back in the day when you got the belt and you got whipped, and
Yeah,
so I've
all
had my
that.
share.
As, you
But
know, maybe
it
that's
kind
our
of left
problem right now.
it left a image on me at a young age about
Of
till you
course.
see something through somebody else's eyes, it's hard to put perspective. And like I say, there's not a lot of coaches on these things, a lot of ex-players, but not coaches,
Right.
you know, and how you think and how you play. And so hopefully you can bring that to the table is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
No, and you have, and that's what's been so fun because it is that other perspective. You know, obviously that Eddie Taylor and myself do not have. Just quickly as we wrap up here, what's been, I guess, the most fun thing for you? You said being around ball, being at these sites, but you know, just as you're in this, you know, next chapter of life, you know, what have you enjoyed maybe the most?
Uh, you know, right now, as you're older, you're just reflecting on, and I guess I was saying the other day, like the GM of the Chargers was an ex-GA of mine. GM with the guy been around long. I'm starting to get old. You get perspective. I always say perspective comes with age because, and you start to see the players and the great player, and you start to have a story, and that story comes out because you remember a player. I guess I don't. Still, I'm pinching myself to realize how lucky a life that I've lived,
Mhm.
and the people that I've been around, and the people that I've came in contact with. How those players have affected me. How other
Mhm.
people off the field have affected me. How media people have affected me. How, you know, I just pinch myself to say, you know, because when you're in it, you're just grinding, you're just going,
Right.
and the different places you've been, the opportunities you've had, that your family's had, and how lucky I've been to do, and then still be able to do it now with the media side is again, I'm like Bill Walton. I'm the luckiest man on earth. But you know, I mean, in a weird way, I feel like I am. I mean, because I said this, I've never had a job in my life.
Yeah.
I truly believe I've never had a job in my life. I don't
Right.
feel like I've had, even though it's work, I've never had a job in my life because I never thought coaching was a job.
Right.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
I
is
would have
really
coached if I
cool.
was still making $50,000. Yeah, I'd be coaching. I never got into coaching
Right.
Right.
for money, and you know, and that was just something I wanted to do. I'm one of the few fortunate people in the world to do what he loved to do.
Right. And it has been cool to watch like coaches and the respect they have for you when they sit next to you, even players. We went to SMU and some of the players sat down next these kids sit next to you and you recruited some of these kids, right? Like
Yeah.
they look at you like the ultimate. So it's an honor to sit next to you and just it's cool to watch that dynamic and I hope you feel that too because people really do love and respect what you do. And guess what, Emac, he's not done yet. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
You
right.
There's
know,
more
it is funny. You
to
don't
it.
think about that, but how many people watch football on Saturdays
Yeah.
and you're having
Wow.
success? People see you, and it is our. You know, it doesn't dawn on that. We're just doing what we do every day. Like you know, you as
Right.
a player, you may get those signs that people see us on TV. I mean, and you just realize how many homes you've actually been in
Right.
because you're getting to do something you love to do. And again, how fortunate we are.
Yeah, there's no question about it. We're going to keep this thing rolling, man. It's a pleasure to talk with you, Coach. Thanks for your time. We'll have to do this again, and we're going to talk some ball next time. Now that we got the story, we'll talk some ball next time. I'm grateful for your time, brother, and can't wait to see you this weekend.
It's great working with you, Taylor. Having a blast. Look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Hey, see you soon.